Okay, I'm back.
I said we live on Facebook, so one second.
Okay. Let me go on Facebook.
I just gotta warn you. Let's see, and let me go to my Facebook.
Let me go on there too. Let
Oh
me
wait a
go.
minute, I gotta do my settings first. I gotta do
Tag me so that I can find it when you get a chance.
okay, let's see. I gotta
And
you
then
guys just hold
I'll be
on.
resharing this.
Y'all hold on. We're getting it together, getting it together. You know, I gotta edit my audience. I gotta change from friends to public. And then Kiara, you could go and like on my page, let me tag you.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook on the background. So let me pull this aside.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so okay, I just tagged you so you could go to your page and actually share it
All
on.
right, got you. Okay, I see it. I see
All
it.
right, let me go back to my Zoom and let me go on. Uh, all right, you guys. All right, right. I am so excited about this. I got my sister tonight. Um, a lot of y'all already know her. Look, everybody was just cheering me on and everything. So let me kind of give you a little background. You know, I've been in real estate 23 years, and you know, it's always nice to meet other, especially female real estate agents that is not in competition. They're into collaboration, first of all, you know. Even though this lady right here, when I first met her, she was trying to get me to go over to a company that she was a recruiter for. And every time she saw me, she was like, they keep wanting me to get you, but I keep telling them you're not coming. I said, no, I ain't coming because I know those fees over there. I like you, but I don't like those fees, you know. Then, you know, she did an amazing job. She built that company. And then she got actually, I consider like a promotion to be a manager at a Caldwell Banker in Davis, not Sacramento, y'all. Wait, not Sacramento. They put this sister in Davis, okay? So we have the one and only Keira Norman, who is
Oh,
now the broker of Impact Real Estate Solutions, and now, as of last week, my manager at a she got banker in Davis. You gotta hit the mute.
sorry about that. I got you. My
That's
bad.
all right. I've done
My
it so
bad.
many times. So
Yes, guide me. Guide me.
just thank you for taking the time out of your evening. I know how busy you are, especially lately with me blowing you up, getting on.
Girl, it's what I do. It's no biggie.
So, you know what? Tell me, how was Kiara as a child?
To believe it or not, I was very much the same child. Like I was very much in charge, always did my own thing. Um, and I always tell a story about I was built literally to be an entrepreneur. And I say that because I have my first company that I opened and launched and literally created my own revenue when I was 12 years old. And it was called Kit Power. And
What
then
was it?
what I did is anything that I can do. If I can babysit, if I can do laundry, if I can fold clothes, if I can cut yards, if I can clean up, if I can write a paper, if I can tutor kids. Like, so the story is that my mom, till this day, I actually drew out a flyer and I used block lettering with my own handwriting, and I bullet pointed everything I can do, and I saved up 5 cents because back then when I was 12 years old, I lived in Valley High. I grew up in Valley High. So we had a grocery store, Albertsons, for anybody who knows or remembers Albertsons, right? So Albertsons, and when you first walked in, it had a copy machine for black and white copies, and they were 5 cents each. So when we used to go grocery shopping, I peeped that. I'm like, oh, I can make copies. My parents was like, I'm not giving you 5 cents for that. So one day at the kitchen table, I basically drew out a flyer and I named my company Kid Power, and I bullet pointed everything I did, put my address so they can get a hold of me, put my mom's home, my house number, my parents' house number, because of course there was no cell phones or no really the whole neighborhood knew my family anyway. So that's really was my first company. I created my own revenue. My parents didn't play the allowance game. They didn't play it was you do the chores because that's your part. It wasn't like do chores and get allowance. So I'm like, oh, y'all don't want to help. Okay. Well, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that by myself. So that was really, I mean, that's just say a lot. I was 12 years old doing that. As a teenager, I played all sports. I was an athlete. I was junior prom princess. I was the head of the yearbook club. I was on the dance team, and then carried two part-time jobs at the same time. So that was like really, the foundation of who I was. And I grew up in a whole atmosphere and environment of success and leadership of really, really strong women, right? So, being determined and ambitious and just taking control of things that I wanted was always just a big part of who I was. And of course, through that you make a ton of mistakes and you learn a lot, and you fail your way to success, so they'll say. But as a kid, I was very, very much the same. Very much the same.
Are you the oldest, middle, youngest?
I'm in the middle. I have a lot of siblings. It's a split family, but we have a really big family. So even though I'm in the middle, everybody knows I'm the boss. No,
See, I just
they're not watching
I
right
knew
now,
it.
but that's what I would say.
Oh my goodness. Oh my god. So what sports did you play?
I played basketball, softball, street ball, anything that I can do that was competitive, just because I was super competitive. So, as a kid, even in high school, I was always playing up. So it wasn't freshman on the freshman team. I was a freshman on JV. I was a sophomore, playing up. So I was always super competitive and very, very tomboy, very
That's what I
tomboy.
wanted to ask you. Were you
Yeah.
tomboyish? Oh my god. Oh my god. See, look at times change, y'all. Look at times change. Oh my goodness. Oh my god. So what was your actual first job though?
So my first job in real life, I went and got my work permit when I was 15 and a half. And I went to Laguna Creek High School, and Ross Dress for Less
My
was
store.
in Elk Grove, but it was the one on, I think it was West Stockton, not East Stockton, but West. It's still there to this day. And I literally was, the cashier, the stock person, the whole little 16-year-old job at Ross. And I was also one of the best dressed because I had the hookup. I had the
Oh my goodness, that is crazy. I just didn't expect you to say all that. Oh my God, especially like being tomboyish and stuff. So,
Yes.
um, so what got you into real estate? Like what piqued your interest? For me, it was I met this lady, Rachel Poole,
Hmm.
and at this bridal event and stuff, she was doing something with tax people, and she got me in 23 years ago. And I never really thought about it. All of a sudden, I was like, I was driving by a house. I was like, yeah, I want to go see what's inside there. So, what piqued your interest?
Well, my story is quite unique. When I first started real estate, it wasn't to become a real estate agent. My ex-husband, now ex-husband, and I have children, my son and my daughter is their dad.
Okay, y'all don't be okay, man. Don't be all up in her inbox. I know you already are, but since she said that, don't.
You funny. There ain't nobody ain't nobody worried about me at all. I know it might seem that way, but they definitely ain't worried about me. But no, so my ex-husband, he was just an awesome dude. Like he's an awesome dude. I'm saying when we was married as well, obviously he was a great husband. He was an entrepreneur at heart. He was super determined, came from some tough backgrounds and some tough upbringings. And he had the ability to create the future he wanted. And there was a period of us, dating, obviously. And he's from Houston, Texas. Obviously, I'm from here in California. So we dated long distance for quite some time. And he was just very determined to get into an industry or a field that he knew would create wealth for himself or his family, right? Came from a background of not having his mother or his father, never met his father, ever didn't even know his father's name. Mother was locked up, murder charges, like literally all his life. Did 19 years, something like that. Was raised by his grandmother, raised his siblings. So that kind of mentality, you go different ways with it. For him, it was like, oh, I'm super determined. So he put a lot of his energy and time and effort into creating a legitimate situation to where he can be successful. And he noticed him and I had a lot of equal, thoughts on how we wanted our future to look. So he noticed that in me. At the time when we were dating, I worked for USAA. So, you know,
Oh,
USAA, the insurance company, I was
yeah.
actually a senior claims adjuster
Mhm.
at a very young age. Mostly everybody in my department had degrees. I was still in college, like, you know, so I was
Also, it's
making
on
a
Harvard
lot
Boulevard, right?
right up the street off of Artie. Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes,
And
ma'am.
just and
Building.
also Mr. G, Caleb, he said, "What's up, sisters?"
Hello, hello. So yeah, USAA, I worked there for a couple years. I did, and saying that to say, he was like, you know, I'm getting ready. He had a trucking company, did very well with that, owned it with his best friend.
Mhm.
Um, and he said, you know, I want to take this money and I want to open up a mortgage company. Right. And so that was his thought. And he called me and he was like, you know what? You're so sharp. You're way ahead of your time. You're super goal oriented. And we had already been dating. He was like, we already want to focus on the same future. Why don't we build this mortgage company? I'm like, boy, bye. I work for USAA. I make a lot of money. There's no way I'm coming out there to come. No, NO. Right. So I'm joking and I'm like, you know, send me my salary, advance me my salary if you want me to come out there. And I mean, ultimately, he was super serious. So he was able to, you know, create a situation where he created some freedom for me to be able to want to give up a job that I was working in at a 20-year-old, as a 20-year-old with, you know, college graduates, you know. So ultimately moved to Houston. We focused on building a mortgage company that would ultimately create opportunities for people in his neighborhood. He wanted to be able to start in his neighborhood and create like a community of, you know, lease to purchase homes. And mind you, he was ahead of his time. This is back in '04, y'all. I've been in real estate since '04. Alita, probably a little bit after you. You've been in longer than me.
2002.
I
Yeah.
started in '04. I didn't get licensed until '05, '06-ish,
Mhm.
right? But we started investing in '04. So I was feet in the ground, knee deep in real estate, you know, and we're in 2020, 2025, you know, and that's all my little life. I'm 44 years old.
Yeah.
So, you know, started mortgage, had the capital to create a potential situation, but we had the wrong mentors. We had the wrong guidance, which led to us making bad decisions. And we had, you know, X amount of money. We were like, oh, we only have this amount of money left. What we gonna do?
Mhm.
Right. So this is in Houston, Texas. So we I don't, the story that is so crazy is, if you remember, we didn't have like Google and
No,
like YouTube or none of that, right? So
no.
anything that you wanted to learn about, like you either had to go to the library, learn about it, or if you were up late at night and you saw those infomercials come on, and there would be like certain things like penny houses. And so, believe it or not, we were up super late one night and we saw one of those infomercials, and it was like, you know, learn how to buy houses for a penny and yada yada yada, right? We were like, I was always the skeptical one. He was always like, maybe it ain't all like they saying, but let me see what they talking about and I'll figure it out on my own. So
Mhm.
he had that kind of mentality. Ordered the infomercial, Lita, got the DVD, popped it into the DVD at the house, learned about free and clear properties. We just so happen to be in Texas. Texas is one of the states in the 50 states that have free and clear properties. So we took our little last money, learned about how to invest in property tax auction properties.
Oh, yeah.
Literally went out to the courthouse on the first Tuesday of every month, right? Which is still happening right now to this day. You
Uh-huh.
know, went out there and was able to experience, you know, acquisitions
Mhm.
through property tax auctions and utilizing the thought of an infomercial that we watched in the middle of the night. So it's a very interesting
Oh.
story, but you know, it created the opportunity to do a lot of what people do today. We were doing it back then. You
Mhm.
purchase properties that are really low price. You have an investor pool of people that just want to access properties at a low price also. So we were able to wholesale, right, as full free and clear owners.
Yeah.
Right. So after we went to the auction for the first time, after we had our last little money, after failing our way through our little mortgage disaster,
Yeah.
right, we were able to do some acquisitions.
Oh.
And you know, if you're really a business person, you can understand how to make things work. You just got to learn how to, you have to understand that. He was that way. He
Mhm.
knew exactly what to do when you gave him something that he could do something with, you know. So we had the properties. We were able to um create a two wholesale properties, wholesale amount, two of them. The other two we were able to keep.
Mhm.
We were able to do minor work put some Section 8 people in there, do a cash out refi, and ended up with a high amount of a net profit just by creating that process with the last little money we had, right? So doing that, it created a situation where I was coming across, people who wanted properties because I was advertising. You know how it is, Alita, because you one of the master hustlers. You know how it is. You'll market and you'll have one property and have 30 people driven in from that property. And now you got 30 people that you can go find property for, right? So, or keep in contact with that they might refer you out. So it literally repeated that process. And I did that for a very long period of time.
And like you said, back then we didn't have no Facebook or anything. Because when I was a coach at Keller, I remember I was coaching Ignite at night, and the new agents was like, Alita, how did you get your first client? I said, well, first of all, we didn't have no social media. It was called going to the office, sitting at a desk, and a thing called walk-ins.
It was a thing called floor time.
Yeah, floor time. Yeah. And we didn't have no GPS. We had to use the Thomas guys to just follow the streets.
No, we literally had the GPS. Remember, they had the one that tried to bite off the Thomas guy that was called the Tommy. Literally, so I was feet on, and then luckily I had a BMW, so we had like built-in navigation. I was in the city.
Oh,
my whole motto was I'm going to the money. Houston was big, Houston is huge. So it's like when you're just trying to get to the bag and really build your career and you're learning about the city, anytime I had an opportunity, floor time, I'm like, where am I going? Cool, I'll be there in an hour. Like it was really that way. So, I mean, that was really my story, and then I ended up getting licensed, had my own property. So I had a vast amount of experience. So I was very much ahead of the game when it came to being a new licensed agent.
So you was licensed in Texas first, right?
My first license, yes, I got in Houston, Texas. My license number so old from 04. I was telling you the other day, it starts with a 05 0563225. But saying all that to say, that's really how it started. And when you just go with the flow and things happen the way they need to happen and are supposed to happen, and I'm not even mentioning that my family is heavy deep in the game when it comes to real live change and transitions and generational wealth building. My great grandmother and her great grandfather, and their whole family were the first Black real estate brokerage in Brooklyn in the 1940s and 50s, right? So she was, and we'll probably get to that story later, but at the end of the day, that whole genealogy and how that, is in you, not on you, that's real talk. Like it's literally not in you, not on you. And I learned that later. I didn't know that until after I had already been deep in real estate, making changes and making people's lives change, so it was very rewarding to understand that I was carrying on, big parts of what my family fought for and really did a lot with their whole life legacy for us, so that's kind of like how I got into real estate. And then of course there's a whole story behind that. And then behind that, when you've been in real estate for this long, you go through a lot of phases. And
yes, you do.
And me, so I'm very dynamic. I'm gonna I'm creative. You know what I'm saying? If I see an opportunity, we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna reverse engineer the opportunity. So for me, it's my experience is a little different than the average residential agent or the average person who would just be a top producer in sales, so that's kind of like the beginning. That's the beginning story.
All right, and shout out to Sherrod. He started his own home inspection company here in Sacramento. So I don't know. Okay. You haven't met him, huh?
I don't think so. You got to pull up.
I'm surprised you haven't met Keira. Yeah, but he's and I love his report. Says I met him when I was going to his uncle's church, Pastor.
Oh wow.
Yeah, now he's got him and his wife. They started their own home inspection company.
Well, we would love to have you in our office meeting. I'm a broker. We have multiple agents. We do virtual meetings on Wednesdays. Come to our meeting and come give us a presentation. We would love to have you.
Yeah, I'll pass you the information. So let me ask you, when you was talking about did you actually go and do work on the house? Did you how you did?
Absolutely.
What was your favorite part of doing? Were you knocking down walls, or what were you doing, sis?
Oh, for sure. That was really the main part I wanted to be involved in, knocking windows out and being part of the demo. Now, when we were heavily flipping houses, I was very hands-on. And I used to really have to make sure contractors knew me as a woman, like we're not finna play. Like I can get out here and do the same. I just prefer not to. So let's make sure you know
Yeah.
and understand that I could do the same thing, you know. And with the aspect of demo becoming my favorite part of the projects I was involved in, like it was a lot going on. You get stressed out during those flips and trying to run an investment firm and being an agent and having two little kids. And what we'll probably get to is like my ex-husband when we began being super successful, like, you know, he got shot, you know, and became paraplegic. He got shot by his best friend. You know, his best friend didn't directly shoot him, but he tried to set him up. So we went through a whole massive life change, financial, mental life.
Yeah.
And I still managed to have a strong determination to not want to see him like lose or fail because of all of the knowledge and opportunities he had provided for me. So that's when I really became a bigger you know, entity or character, like in real estate. Like I really was like, oh, I'm about to go in. Like I'm not gonna let this man fail or let him see nothing. Like he already going through enough. So it's time for me to boss up.
Mhm.
You know, so when it came to demo and houses, I'm like, where is the hammer? Where is the
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Wow, wow, wow. That is crazy. So you went, how did you get back to California?
well, we got a divorce. So I was married to him after after that happened. I was married to my ex-husband for shit, a long time, 7 years while he was in a wheelchair.
Mhm.
Um, and we just went through a lot, like, you know what I mean? And it led to, you know, us going separate ways initially. So I did move back. I'm from here, you know, so obviously my family's here. I have a big family. So
Mhm.
the kids were really young, you know, so I came back here. And that's kind of how the career shifted, right? It led to where me and you met because it wasn't very long after that I came back. Was fresh out of Houston, still going back and forth, working on my career when you and I had met and I got licensed here. But because I didn't have any clientele. I didn't build my career here, right? So when I came here, I had so much experience and I was already big on leadership. That's how I got into management. Right. And
Mm.
I hear you say a lot, like, you know, I was a recruiter, but I was actually hired to be agent development management.
Oh
I
yeah,
was
agent development. Yeah.
responsible for multiple different offices, but recruiting absolutely was one of my main duties. But we also did a lot of mentoring. We also made sure that they, you know, it was like a whole direct hand on hand, show up for them, be there for them for throughout their whole first maybe, you know, 5 or 6 transactions.
So
Right.
did
So
you
there
get
was a lot of good.
your
Say that
license
again.
first before you went to C21?
Say that again.
You
One more
have your,
time.
did you come back to California, get your license, and then work for C21, or
Yeah, I actually didn't even work for C21 first. I was an agent at the time it was Elite. It was Robert Doe. He now
that
owns
was
the
my first
Berkshire.
broker.
That's so funny because yeah, so it was everybody's first broker. Shout out to him.
He
But
was at that little house off of Parent and Elsie. We had that thing bobbing.
and
That
now
thing
look at
back.
the building, right? And it's funny that when I first went with him, I was a recruiter and a leader at heart. So even as an agent there, I was throwing career nights at that building
Oh, oh,
before
the
when it
new
was
building.
Elite
Yeah,
on Elsie, not when it was the little building, but
yeah,
after he made it the really nice
yeah.
building. And man, back then that was 15 when I had first got back. I'm like, oh, let me hop up in here and woo, right? So I was in there
Oh.
doing recruiting career nights and he also allowed and so what I didn't mention is I also was a loan officer, which I got promoted eventually. This is in Houston, um, to area sales manager. So I was area sales manager of a mortgage company concurrently with having the brokers that I had there in Houston for many years. So my experience also spans over understanding all aspects of loans. Right. Being a manager, and I don't mention that a lot because it's just so much to talk about, but um yeah, you can't like with loans. And yes, when I was in it was my period, it was different. Like we weren't, it was before the crash because I've been in real estate for that long, right? So I was actually doing loans when stated loans were still okay, you know, and me as a also you know, a a licensed real estate professional, you weren't allowed to duplicate and commingle or do a government loan and a regular sale. You can only do conventional loans. So I didn't do any FHAs, any VAs, or any of that as a broker concurrent, but I managed.
Mm-hmm.
because of my leadership skills, right? So that was another thing that I did actively, and it just really helped with my understanding of how to grow in real estate, because that's really the key, right? Financing, lending, understanding how that works, reverse engineering deals, how to get people to the table. That was really where my specialty came in. So
And
yes.
I really didn't, back in days where we had to get the NMLS and all that, we was able to do both. I didn't answer, you guys, I didn't answer all the math questions on the state test, because when you could skip it and still pass. I hated math. So I think I only done, like, back in the days, 2 loans, and stuff, and I remember with Pam for Countrywide, everybody coming through, and you would actually have a loan ready to submit, and then a rep from
Back in the
another
days,
company
too
would walk
long,
in,
and
and they would be like, "I got a better deal," and I was like, "No, we're about ready to close." They'd be like, "No, we just, that got in lower paying," it was just crazy, and stuff. So how did you transition from, you know, your position at C21 to going to Caldwell Banker and Davis? And how did you feel when they offered that to you?
that's a good question. I'll forever be super grateful and thankful for the opportunities that I was like given, right? Being in um such a recognized high level management position in an organization that was a nationally recognized brand, right? So for C21, so for those that don't know, C21 is a franchise, so is Coldwell Banker. And then you'll have other parent companies that could own both brands. And in this situation, that's what happened. So I worked for a company that was the select group of real estate companies, and they were just they're just an amazing, and a lot of people know that, like, most of people, my career in Sacramento started with them. So, I was very much acclimated to being, associated with them, and hopped in and understood the assignment and got straight to it, like, in all honesty. So because I was very focused on making sure that the time and energy that I spent with my career was maximized, I did really well at the agent development position, right? So I had multiple offices that I had the ability to contribute to, which included Roseville, El Dorado Hills, Folsom. My main office was in Folsom,
Oh,
right?
was
So
that?
a
I
lot
thought
of
you said
my
Great Lakes.
headquarters, where I went to every day, I drove to Folsom. And for the dynamic for myself, I talk about this now, which I'm very comfortable at, but it was awkward. I was I had in that office, I felt very comfortable because the other leader just so happened to have some of the same experience as me. She was a minority as well. So, but it still wasn't, of our minority, right? So
Yeah.
it was a very great opportunity for me to step up and say, I'm here and I can do just as good as anyone, right? As a woman, as a minority woman. And so Folsom, and then, Alita, I also had Florin Road. So
Yeah.
Florin Road, Roseville, Folsom, El Dorado Hill. So there was a lot of offices that we had as a franchise company that I was able and given the opportunity to contribute to. And I did very well at that, right? Excelled at that. And so when they needed a leader within the company, which I was already in management, just doing something slightly different, still building on a aspect of equating the company dollar, right? So even though I had agent development, I was recruiting is the key to company dollar. And that was what my assignment was, right? And so doing that, they're like, oh, well, if she has 1 or 2 offices, she absolutely is going to be able to do the same thing there and some, right? Because not only did I have skills in being able to grow, and recruit, but I had massive skills in business operations just from my past experience with my own business, and just with the successes that I've had throughout my whole, my whole experience. So saying all that to say, when the opportunity came up and the acquisition came into fruition through what they acquired in Davis, I was one of the managers that was given the opportunity to be considered for, taking over that area as a regional manager, because not only did I take over right away for Davis, I also took over for Woodland and all the surrounding areas in Yolo County. Additionally, West Sacramento, and I still had my hands in Sacramento too, because at that time I was also chair for YPN.
Oh,
If
wow.
you don't read,
And
if
that's
it,
young
is my thing going blurry or is it
It's
good?
going in and out a little bit, but we can still
Yeah, I
see it.
think it's because it's getting dark. Let me go turn on the light real quick in my office. Hold on.
Okay. So YPN is with Sacramento Association of Realtors. They have the Young Professional Network. So, but it doesn't matter how old you are, you because my butt be at that YPN.
You
So
got to be young at heart. That's
that's
what we always
better. Oh God,
say.
that's so much better, sis. So much better. Okay.
Okay, good. Yeah, you got to be young at heart is what I always say. You don't got to be young.
Okay. So, all right. So, you were saying them they give you the opportunity.
And it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. I was stepping into a role of uh uh in offices that we had just acquired, and they had a culture that was already fully developed in how they moved, right? So you had little old me coming in from Sacramento looking like this, like who is she and why is she here? And it was very, at the end, very, after they were able to kind of, and not and I'm not going to say that everybody as a whole, because it'd be wrong for me to say that every single person was skeptical and all that, but you have your experiences, right? Whether whoever it is, and you go through understanding that, oh, you're going to have to really let them know, like,
Yeah.
who you are and how you're about to do this, right? So it was a challenge of making sure that I was playing my cards right every step of the way to make sure that they can trust me.
Right.
Right. And that's what leaders do. You have to step up. You have to make sure that you're creating space for people to have opportunities to see what you're about.
Right.
Because as a leader, you can't just automatically expect people to trust you. And I knew that, but it gets very hard. So you have to make a decision. Like, are you about to, like, are you committed to this? Because it's not going to be easy. Right. And so I had a lot of doubt, and I had a lot of people that were questioning, like, looking at me. One, I'm young. And a lot of the people in the office, had been there 20 years plus. So they're looking at me like, girl, like, who is you? Like, girl, not even knowing. I knew the contract like the back of my hand. I can recite it back to them. And if you had a question, I can absolutely overly reverse engineer and help you solve the problem. Not only that, I had a lot of legality experience just from because of who I am and how I get involved and how hands-on I am. So I was able to show that through just normal duties of showing up every day and being a manager.
Yeah.
Right? They come to you with a problem, you're the problem solver. That's your test. Right. So yes, I did that for a couple years before I obviously was offered the opportunity to be in that position. Right. And then when I got in that position, it was like having to show a whole nother side, like, okay, you did all that. They already know what you're about. That's why they put you in position, because they know you can handle it. Right. So I knew I had already knocked that out. But then it was like, oh, got to show my office and get my offices to trust me. Right. So that's kind of like how I felt about it. And I have a lot of stories. I have stories of being doubted and called out. Like, and I'm doing trainings that are required as branch manager and as regional manager. You're responsible for the numbers in your office. Right. So you would implement certain programs and certain trainings and my expertise was always on point. So when it got to the point of actually teaching or presenting a training, it was fine. Like, those things that would give me the opportunity. But before I got started and they didn't see what I was about, there were times where people would stop before we got started and say, why should I be learning from you? Like literally saying that out loud. Like, why, please tell me, like, why should I spend my 2 hours in here learning from you and your training? I'm like, well, maybe because I've been in real estate for almost 20 years and I have 3 published books and I own multiple properties and I've been a landlord for heck of long. I'm sorry. And what is it that you do again? So
Valley High
and
came out. That Valley High came out.
And it's like, you can't really, it just is what it is. Like, and I have the receipts for all of that. And it became a point of me being able to let people, when I say that out loud to everybody was probably wondering, to keep it real. She probably was just asking what everybody else was wondering, right? Like, to be real. So it was a great opportunity for me to let everybody know.
And you did. And you did. And I just realized that, okay, so my first broker was Robert Dell, and you was Robert Dell. My first office manager at a real estate office was at one of Robert Doe's Caldwell Banker, when he had Caldwell Banker. I just not realized that. And I remember when Richard Beliantis, I remember firing my first person. He was like, I was like, I don't want to fire him. Rich's like, no, you could do it. You could. That was, we was a Caldwell Banker in West Sacramento. So that's just crazy. I'm just now, even though me and you've been friends for a long time, I'm just not really learning all this. I'm putting it together like, damn, we got a lot of stuff in common.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I don't know that we've ever had like a full conversation about any of that. We've just always known each other and current events and things that are going on currently,
That's
but
crazy.
it's good. We'll have plenty of time to learn more for sure.
Yeah. So what made you transition to your own brokerage? What made you decide, like, look, I'm starting my own brokerage. This is it. Let's, you know.
Yeah, I mean, so there's many different things that I probably can say, right? But what I'll talk about the most important things, and when I had the opportunity to be a part of, like Coldwell Banker and C21, you know, uh, it's a system, it's a corporation, it's somebody else's company, right? So I can always do the best and be the best at what I do. Not only that, I got manager of the year out of 33 offices in 2 states and all of that. Like really, literally, I was that manager, right? Best numbers, always reverse engineer my bonuses, was able to learn that over time. I wasn't always the best, like immediately. I learned how to create, I'm just the type, like if I'm going to be involved in something, I got to be the best at it. If I'm not, what's the point? And even if I'm not the best, I got to try my best. And as long as I try my best, we're good. Like, right. So that's what my mentality was that way. So, having the long, I was there for a long time, right? I went through a lot. And so there was a point where it was like, dang, I'm starting to learn more about myself, understanding like what my abilities are. Being in those spaces have allowed me to like grow tremendously to really figure out what my purpose is, right? My real purpose. Like, really, why am I here? Not at the company, but why am I here on this earth?
Yeah.
Like, let's just keep it real. Like, why am I here on this earth? I had already had, all this experience in real estate. So by trade, of course, my knowledge, all my expertise, all of my amazing creative, ways and things like that come from that. So I'm automatically going to create a career in a situation where I can create a legacy from being a real estate broker, right? But there was a point where I had to say to myself, like, I have more than that to offer, right? So when people start asking me, well, what do you do? And I'm like, I help people reach their goals, right? It's not about real estate, because you know me, I sit with people all, it ain't about real estate at all to me. I sit with community members. I do a vast amount of work in the community. I have a lot of very close people around me that are highly accredited and do real change maker work, right? Not to mention, like, when you show up, you automatically get it, you fall, and you're an automatic leader, you fall into opportunities just to want to help and be passionate. So, real estate and being a real estate broker is the crux of being able to have the knowledge and the ability to provide spaces and opportunities for others to reach their goals.
Yeah.
Right. So I couldn't do that at a level of trying to help somebody else build their company. And, I had already been the best at it. I did the best I could. I already got the biggest award you can get in the position that I got. Right. There is no VP or president position. I'm not the owner. And as I begin to create, I'm like, oh, I could really make my life what I want my life to be. And I don't need anybody to validate that or, tell me, not this is all you can make. So even when I decided to make the change, everybody thought I was crazy, like literally. They thought I was crazy when I decided to move and leave. I was making 6 figures, and I can sell houses too. And on top of that, and I can do it. They were cool because I performed and I delivered, right? They never tripped ever. Like, very much gave me control over a lot of my time, and because I was a workaholic anyway, so they knew that, like, so no, 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 no. And that's okay. You can contribute to the space for a certain amount of time as it serves you. And it's just, as you learn more about yourself and as you become more in tune with what your purpose is, you have to make decisions on how you're going to live your life. Right. So that's kind of what alluded me to say, you know what? Hence impact, right? Impact is really a movement. It's not really just a real estate company. Yes, we do real estate, but it's not the same model that most would potentially, look at. I don't do the, oh, everybody does the same thing and everybody, no, my whole theme and my whole focus is creating space and situations and systems and machines and support and training and a circle and a collaboration and an intentional and innovative pathway for entrepreneurs to become productive through real estate.
So how did the name Impact, how did that come about?
So Impact, like, that's
you
what,
just
like,
said
literally, that's what it was. I said, you know what, let's, and it just hit me one day. It wasn't even like I did an AI search. I had came up with Impact before AI even came out, like before they even had the beta open AI for Chat GPT. I did it before that. Right. And I'm like, what am I trying to do, Keira? What are you trying to do? And I was so laser focused on creating my future and planning out my plan. I'm trying to make an impact. Damn, there it goes. Impact. Wake up, everything you do. Impact. Make somebody smile. Impact. Impact your kids. What can you do different for them? Like, that was my whole motto. I had already been doing it. I had already done that for years and years and years. Like, that's what I do. Like, it's just who I am, and when you asked me about when I was a kid, I was always the kid who's beat up the bully for bullying.
Well, I never asked you if you was fighting.
Girl, I have a lot of brothers too, and yes, girl, and it's funny because I have friends like to this day, like my day ones. They grew up in Valley High with me, and they know they call me Kilolo right now. They be like, "Don't be
okay,
messing
y'all heard that.
up."
Y'all heard that.
I be weak at them. I be like, "Stop, no," but yes, no. But that's really what what I've done is just that's where impact came from. The plans that I have for the company is much bigger than real estate. I've already created foundational things to be able to have pathways to create impact education, impact community, impact investments, impact everything, right? It's literally a hashtag. And my vision is just huge based on my background, like I said, with my family, what I was able to accomplish and be exposed to so far. And then just like you see, and you firsthand have seen how far I've come. Like, you've
Yes.
seen it like firsthand. So it's that's just what it is.
Guys,
That's
let me tell y'all, she kept like within the last like few months, she was on me before about coming along, but when she started her company and stuff, she kind of hit me up a couple times. But y'all, these last like 2 months, yeah, my sister's blowing me up, blowing me up, blowing me up. Yeah, pressure. I felt the pressure, but no, but I'm glad. And let me just say this: when I made that announcement that I joined Impact Real Estate Solutions, do you know how many people said I made the right choice? Even even escrow officer, she goes, that was a great move.
Aww.
She said that was a great move. She goes, I work with Wilson and all of them over there. She said they are really good over there. And I really can't really remember when somebody had told me when I made a move to a real estate company, because I moved, kind of a few times, not as much as I used to, but with you, I've got so many compliments, even on Facebook. You saw what people were saying on Facebook, and that just tells you about your personality, your character, what people, the true ones, your true real ones, like, Zoritha and all of them, the true ones, how everybody feels, about you. You're like, I want to say like, I don't want to, Zaretha, I love Zaretha. I've always looked up to Zaretha.
Me too.
I remember before I even really, well, or when I first got into real estate, actually I was, I hope she's watching. I was scared to meet her. She was like a superstar in the
Because
real
she's such a
estate world.
boss. Like, she's
She
such
had
a
the
boss.
trucks,
And yes.
And I didn't, and you never know, like, how some people may act and stuff. But Zaretha, that is my girl. She is the most down to earth person. But I remember, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, if she don't watch this, I gotta tell her that story.
No, I tell her that all the time. I was like, you are such a boss, but she know.
Yeah, yeah. So how did you balance, like, when you left Houston, you became a single mom, right? How did you balance being a single mom and just going to now?
Well, girl, you know, to be honest with you, and just speaking transparently, my ex-husband was paraplegic. So, you know, that happened when my daughter was right over a year, 11, 12 months. She had just turned 1, you know. So I've kind of always been a single mom, even when my ex-husband was when we were in the same house, because I was I took care, like he was paraplegic, you know what I mean? So, you know, where that comes from really is it's not even a balance. And I hate to I'm just being straight up honest. Like when you're trying to be successful, balance is really not something that you can search for it and you can definitely try. But if you're a go-getter and you're going to get to the bag, balance is not something you have to, you can prioritize. And this is my opinion from my personal experience, because I spent a lot of time, well, stressing. How can I balance? How can I not balancing? I'm not balancing, right? Sometimes you just have to prioritize what's going to get you closest to your goal the quickest. And you have to be willing to do that. And in order to do that, you have to get everybody on board with understanding what you're doing, because that gets that balance to make more sense. A lot of that perception on balance comes from societal norms, what people think you should be doing, what society says you're supposed to do, right? Not understanding that your struggle, your path, your direction, what you're trying to accomplish is yours, right? So why is it that you should be stressing or trying to adjust what you know you should be doing to what society or what others think is best, right? So when you're asking a question of like, how do you balance, you just get to it. Like it ain't even about balancing. For me, I raised two very, and I'm pride on this, and I'm generally very humble. It's never me being arrogant, so I'm not trying to come off that way, but my kids are fire. And I was a single mom the whole time. You know what I mean? And I made a decision, right? I didn't consider balance, because when you do that, you distract yourself from being focused on what you're really trying to do, right? So my kids, and my daughter, she'll be 20 in May, right? I went through a lot to make sure that I sacrificed that balance, right? To get her to being the brilliant young lady she is now. My son, 18, senior, right? Crazy. Intern at SAR, works in the government relations departments, being mentored by a lobbyist. He's just intelligent as hell. Like I can't even explain to you. And yeah, whatever. I'm biased, it's my kids, whatever, but they're still fire. And so what I'm saying to you is, like, when we're talking about balance, and you make a decision, period. What are you trying to do? Who's done it? And what did they do to get there? So you trying to decide, like, well, how am I going to balance? It ain't about that. You're either going to do it or you're not.
Right. See.
So that was really that was my mentality. All this, oh, I don't have time. I don't do all the friend, like I don't do like the weekend outings. I don't do like, you know, the unnecessary trips and just go because everybody else is going. I do stuff that makes sense, that is going to get me to my next step. And I was very, very laser focused on doing that. I still am. People that know me, it's like, look, I don't have time, and it's just nothing personal. And it's like, some people are going to understand, some people are not.
You know, Dominique just said that when I was at her sister to sister event. She's like, the same thing you just said. She goes, I don't go out, do that drinking stuff and party stuff. She goes, I gotta, I'm focused on getting to a certain level. I'm focused on my business, on that. Me going out doing all that is not going to get me to where I want to be at, and stuff.
I mean, it's just not. So those are facts. So balance really isn't, hold on real quick.
I hope you guys are taking notes. We got some folks on here. Hey, Natasha. I hope you guys are taking notes. We got put me on here. Hey, Natasha. I keep telling the girl to hit the mute.
Sorry, I don't know why I keep doing that. That's why I said hold on, because it keeps, I don't know why. Okay, sorry, there, I fixed it.
And there's I don't know, Brandy Thomas. I'm not sure. I don't know if that's my friend. I got somebody, and Eric, I think Erica, I love Erica and Daniel. Oh my God. Erica Robertson and Daniel Robinson.
Hi, Erica.
She's over there with Roy.
I love both of them, yes.
Yes, I love them. But no,
So yeah, I mean, balance, Alita, balance is just not, I mean, that's just my personal opinion. Some may disagree, and that's cool. And yes, the me time and all that is very important. I'm not trying to take away, you got to take care of yourself. Like, I'm not saying that, and you don't mistake my words, because a lot of people do that. Well, she's saying no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is make a decision
don't make
and
it a
write it out.
habit. You don't make all that partying and stuff a habit. Yeah, we pop out sometimes, but but we just don't make it, a habit. Now, your kids, I remember being at a few real estate events and they were there, and it's just so funny. Like, did you do what I did? I used to I used to drag, especially Jeremy. I used to drag him. He found a hidden room one time in a house. But and then when he got older, he's like, I don't want to do real estate and stuff. Then remember what, last year or so, he flipped his first house in Oakland and stuff.
Yep.
But your kids, they is that something they want to get into the real estate, get their license, or
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they grew up in real estate. I was in real estate before either of my children were born. So when I say they literally grew up in the little walkers on the construction site, all that, they understand negotiation. We talk contracts. So, my daughter definitely real estate already she does real estate right now as we speak.
Oh, okay.
She does investments. Her and her boyfriend of a long time, they actually live in Florida. Kimani graduated. She went to Christian Brothers. When she graduated, she went to Sac State. After that, they moved to Florida.
Oh, wow.
They do wholesale real estate, and her boyfriend, I bought her boyfriend classes for his real while he was at McClatchy High School when he was 17. That was his birthday present. He got real estate classes, right? So my kids, same thing, it's not even a question. Like, you get your driver's license, you get your real estate license. Right? And a lot of the properties that I have and that I've been able to acquire, we have trusts, and they were gifted trusts at 16, to understand, like, we're not giving out, this is what we giving out, like, for gifts. Like, you get a trust, here's your binder, here you go. Right. So that's kind of like what our path was. And now it's like, yeah, they're the college, they're gonna get all that done, college degrees, all of that, but it's self-sufficiency. It's not college degrees. That's the focus, isn't to go out and the focus is, if you need to use corporate jobs and you need to get a job to learn the world, great. But that's not the end goal. Yeah. And my kids, and now I'm like, damn, because they make, my son in high school he makes money right now. He has businesses that he sells stuff online, and he understands how to buy and resell certain items that are popping, just like an Amazon, shop, something of that sort. And he has multiple different platforms. And I'm like, yo, bro, like, can I borrow some money? Like,
Well,
like,
look where he got it from his mama. What was the name of your first company when you was 12?
Kid Power.
Okay.
You'll have to ask me to show you the flyer. My mama got it still. It's crazy. Like, she'd be like,
she still got it.
Oh, she still got it. She keeps everything. I swear, it's so funny.
Now, before we go, I forgot. Now, y'all, okay, so y'all done heard everything that she's done, but she really didn't tell you, like, you're licensed in how many states, and you still invest. What states are you that you invest in and you suggest people to invest in still?
I mean, the biggest thing with investing is I only go where I have an experience, because I don't like to talk about stuff or try to tell people to do stuff that I haven't done. Right? So I started out investing in Houston. So, I've been doing that for many, many years. So many different opportunities. It's the 4th largest city in the whole United States. So they have a lot of different things that you can get into and make money through without being licensed, without being licensed, whatever you're trying to do if you're an investor. Obviously, you want to have a circle of people that are licensed professionals and things like that. I was actually put on by one of my Houston partners opportunities in Alabama, right? Learning about tax deeds and buying properties for super, super low, just because of, economically what was happening at the time. But I learned how to also do analyzations and analysis on how it's easy to make decisions on where to invest at, right? So we decided to invest in Birmingham because of what was happening there economically. They had 2 Amazon big giant headquarters that were being built there that created multiple different jobs on higher levels that stimulated the economy drastically and increased the real estate that we purchased, that we started in 18 there. Right. And, all of those situations weren't all the best. Like, you go through different, just like any other situation, you buy tax deeds, you go through situations with different clients that, may not understand what they're supposed to be doing or understand the assignment. Right. So And we own property there. And then, Birmingham is only 2 hours away from Georgia. So
Yeah.
those are reciprocal states. You can get licensed there too. So those are all throughout my years, just like, okay, well, hey, I'm in Birmingham looking at these houses, my houses I just bought, shoot, hopping in the car, driving to Atlanta, looking at the same stuff. Right. Atlanta's literally 2 hour drive from Birmingham. So you're in Alabama, here goes Atlanta, because Georgia and Alabama right here.
Yeah.
So, and then having Texas that's like my second home. Still have property there right now. Look, I'm doing some things there as we speak. And it'll always
You have
be,
a property management company out there. What do you like suggest? People have property management companies that they live here, but they invest in other states, right?
100%. You need to get a property manager that you absolutely trust and know. I've had situations where we've had property managers in the past where they did not do a good job that put me at risk and liability, and I got sued. So it was by a tenant, and it was because my property manager was trash. So, that's something super, super important. One of the things we offer with our investments is if it's something that you follow through with and you are going to purchase a property for the purpose of holding or rent, getting cash flow, we have a team that we create a whole system for. So, hey, we have this portfolio in Birmingham. If you are interested in creating cash flow for yourself, we have lower, you can get in easier because they're much cheaper. Right. So there's different things that we do in different places because, and it all depends on somebody's end goal, and everything ain't for everybody. Like, let's just be clear about that, because a lot of people, it sounds good. Everything I'm saying, right, sounds great. Right.
Yeah.
But nah, it ain't for everybody. These are things that are highly, risky, highly risky. You have to really have the right team. You have to understand what you're doing, and you have to be willing to understand what an investment actually is and consists of. Right. And you have to really know what your end goal is. So I do all of that.
Money and be ready to lose money, maybe.
Well, I've lost money countless times. Right. But it's not going to stop me. But that's just me. A lot of people won't be able to handle that.
Yeah.
They'll lose money one time and be like, I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So yes, thank you for having me. I'm super excited. We're about to go. There's a lot of big plans we haven't even been able to talk about yet, and everybody, I'm sure, will be hearing them. But I'm just ready to go in. We have a long year ahead and a lot to accomplish.
We got a full service. We're gonna have a full service. Man, I'm excited about being over there. Impact. Learning from you. Helping over there too, and just being like a one-stop shop and a resource center for people. That's why I'm so excited for it. So how can people reach you?
Well, right now, just follow me you can follow me right here, Keira Norman. I'm on Instagram, Keys to Success, KEEZ 2 success.
And don't be trying to look at Kilolo either. She ain't on the
And my website for my company is therealimpact.com. So you guys can check us out on our website.
And if you're a real estate agent, if you're not happy with your company right now, hit me or Keira up. We would love to talk to you and let you know. Now, everybody was like kind of shocked that I went, over there. So, but
no, like they really were. Not to say that's a reflection on me. It's just that just shows about who you are, right? Because people know you don't be playing no games. Like Alita, for the past years, like you be who you be. Like you're at the companies you're at. Like, you know what I mean? And you don't play about moving around. You don't play about, like, you stay loyal to your people.
Yes.
So when they knew you came, they were like, wait, what? But we different, because I say that, to you, not like this is a response that I've ever given, but to you, I'm saying we different. Yeah. Like, each other. We've even worked together. Like, we've had so many situations to where we built a professional relationship, a personal relationship over the years, to where you might have other people that you may have considered joining, which are amazing, but they may just not have the same rapport that we were able to build. You know what I mean? So I think that could be the difference, and people just don't know that. Like, we got it's special with us.
Yeah, very special. And you guys, I'm telling y'all gonna see a whole bunch of impact real estate signs out and about soon and stuff. So, and then, and we got the tools too. That's the thing. So, a lot of real estate brokers, you go and they don't have like the apps and the tools and stuff. So, it's funny, but Mike is emailing right now. You
Yeah,
know,
we have a whole team, we have a support, but Impact is like definitely up to par with a lot of the mainstream, even though we're smaller and independent. I mean, we're almost even a little bit more advanced when it comes to modern technology. So am I right, Alita?
yes,
Like
and
one-stop
diversified.
shops.
And
Yes,
diversity up in there. So,
yeah, I mean, you can check out my website and we're doing nothing but growing. And again, it's just about creating spaces for everyone to be able to thrive instead of being put in a box and be told what you can and cannot do and be told that you have to do this or else you're not going to be successful. Like we're not doing that over
right.
here.
So
So
get with the Impact, y'all. Sis, I thank you so much. Go enjoy the rest of your evening. I appreciate you, and I will.
I'll see you at the office meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Yes,
Virtual
indeed.
meeting if you can log on. I know you might be already have meetings, but
Yeah,
I'll look at our WhatsApp, look at our
I'll
group app.
probably log on.
Yeah,
Okay.
log on and just
All
get on.
right. Bye,
Have a
everyone.
good night. See you later. Send me the video. Send me the video too.
You know I will. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.